Welcome to webmasters.fm. I got Rodolfo here with Checkout Summit. I'm really excited to talk about this, but maybe you could, Rodolfo, give everybody a little bit of a bio, how people might know you online, and what you do in the WordPress space.
Thanks, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here. I think people know me as Business Bloomer, which has been around for many years. A website which has always been full of blog posts and tutorials and snippets for WooCommerce since, let's say, I became very active in 2014, so it's almost 11 years now. And then, over the years I specialized in WooCommerce, try to be very vocal about it as well on social and newsletters and you name it, videos. What I planned now for 2026 is the first in-person conference since, what was it? It was WooConf back in 2018 was the last time. So that was the official WooCommerce conference that happened 3 times over the course of 3 years. And then COVID happened and loads of things happened as well. So I said, this is the perfect time to go back to talk about WooCommerce in person. And that's exactly what I want to do on a daily basis. The conference is just one of the ways that I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of in-person conferences. I think online conferences are nice. Like you get some content, you get some videos and stuff, and I think it would be cool to see a Woo kind of like a digital conference or something. But there's just something about in-person conferences that just changes your relationship with everybody online, like everybody becomes a little bit more real. Did you have a lot of experience with in-person other conferences like WordCamps or other things like that?
Yeah, so I think I belong to the percentage of WordPress developers who spend 99% of their time at home on their own. And
yeah,
I always felt the need to go to a meetup or to travel to a WordCamp, whether local or national or international. Like it's something that we tend to need, like as developers or as users or as actually freelancers working from home all the time. And needless to say, spoke at many events. I organized many events, WordCamps, meetups, and so on. I enjoy them a lot. Despite I'm a super introverted person, I still need to get out of the house and leave the laptop at home and then go outside and talk about, in this case, WooCommerce, but could be WordPress, could be tech, could be e-com, could be anything. I think, first of all, putting faces on people that you always, chatted with online in Slack or whatever it is. Also, talking actually to people, see what's going on, what the roadmap is, or, what they're working on and what's the new hot thing and what's working for them. These are things that you can't really get when you're online. And why not? I mean, loads of networking opportunities, loads of potential partnerships, acquisitions, who knows? So things happen with, whenever you're drinking a coffee, whenever you're drinking a beer, if you're into that, whenever you're attending some actual talk and you want to go and chat to the speaker. So this is why I really value offline experiences. I love online conferences. I've spoken at them, I've been at them as an attendee as well, but there is no comparison. So my goal with this was to actually put a face on 150 WooCommerce people and see what comes out of 2.5 days of conference.
Yeah. And I feel like the European community has been better about doing conferences. There's not a lot of stuff around me. I mean, I guess there's a lot of bigger tech stuff because San Francisco's not too far and there's a lot of those kind of big tech company conferences. But as far as WordPress and WooCommerce, it feels like there hasn't been as much, conferences coming back in the States. But when I look at like Europe and especially Asia, it feels like everybody's fully back into in-person conferences and stuff. I wonder if it's just a cultural difference or what it is, but I'm glad it's happening somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. I think what really works in Europe and probably in Asia as well is that the contributors and the community are huge.
Hmm.
So, I know so many people in Italy alone that, work on translations, and so many people who really put their heart and soul, in this case, into WordPress. Specifically, like loads of meetups around, very, very active community. Like, this conference is not only for Italian people, of course, but I feel like Europe really needed something like that just to really show up and attend something in person. These, of course, will attract people from the US, from India as well. But, it would be amazing, to do something, um, you know, only about WooCommerce in, the Americas, and, in Asia as well, just to cover all time zones. Because I think there is a big need, and you can see it online, like on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on in Slack as well. Like lots of people want to talk about WooCommerce. Lots of people, are wondering, what's next and what we should be focusing our time on, and what the future holds, and what's the story with the WooCommerce versus Shopify thing, and it's super important to talk to people. And in fact, the idea for Checkout Summit came after a hallway track conversation at WordCamp Europe. So I was there with like 20 WooCommerce people, and I said, hold on, what are we gonna do about this? And I said, you know what? If WooCommerce agrees and they're happy about it, I'll just organize an in-person conference, because we need it and WooCommerce needs it. I have to be super thankful to your company, by the way, which stepped up and say we're going to sponsor it, and we're going to speak at it. And this is amazing from amazing support from WooCommerce itself by valuing what I'm trying to build here. It's not easy, but I'll get there.
Yeah, and when I started at WooCommerce, it's interesting because I've only been at WooCommerce like maybe a year. So every time I have these talk to people in the community, it's like they have a decade of experience and I have, maybe the least amount of WooCommerce experience. But I kind of came from the WordPress community. And one of the first things when I joined, people said, the WooCommerce community is not quite the same as the WordPress community. Like there's some overlap, but it's almost like a different world. Do you think that that's true, or do you see like a big difference in people that are WooCommerce versus kind of like the general WordPress community?
I disagree on that. I mean, at the end of the day, whenever there were way more coverage about WooCommerce at WordCamps, you used to get loads of WooCommerce people there, because at the end of the day, WooCommerce is a WordPress plugin. So if you don't know WordPress, you're done. So I think there is overlap, but at the same time, doing a specific event, a specific conference, like used to be WooConf back in the day, only about WooCommerce, it kind of makes sense, because it's time we show up. It's time we talk about it. It's time we know each other as well. I mean, lots of times we always complain, oh, we don't know who is WooCommerce. I mean, who's behind it? And there is no better way of actually talking to your colleagues than actually going to an in-person conference. But speaking of the community, I think WooCommerce people are, at the end of the day, WordPress people, but at the same time, they need something way more specific, way more focused, way more connected. And Checkout Summit is one of those ideas. Of course, I'm not saying it's the only one. I'm not gonna say I'm the first one, the best one, and the only one. I'm just saying I'm trying to do my best
Mm-hmm.
when thinking that we people in WooCommerce need to, some time to talk to each other, and that's the main goal.
Yeah, and one of the issues I always have, or like one of the kind of hurdles at working on content for WooCommerce, is that there's so many different types of people. So there's agencies who are building sites and they're worried about the theming and how it's going to look and some functionality and custom functionality. And then there's extension developers who are building plugins, integrations, and they're trying to sell, to the agencies, to the other people. And there's the end users who some of them are just running their own store. They're not really developers, but they were able to put together their own WooCommerce store, and maybe they're looking for some code snippets or something like that. Like there's just so many different groups of people all involved in WooCommerce that need different types of information and stuff. So how do you think about that as you're kind of planning out the programming and the speakers and the content?
That's a great point. In fact, back in the day, WooConf was like 1 year for developers and 1 year for merchants. They were kind of alternating the object and the content as well. So I think the same applies to WordPress. Whenever you go to a WordCamp, over the years, except for the last couple of years, I must say, we always kind of complained that the topics were too generic or weren't really going deep, and it was a waste of time, and people used to come out of the rooms and talk outside and stuff like that. In the last 2 years, I must say the content way more interesting, but it's always difficult and always a pain to define a specific target market, because as you said, there are so many different people, like big agencies, small agencies, freelancers, merchants. Yeah, it's very difficult to define a target audience and to make everyone happy. So my thought for this very first Checkout Summit was to get as many developers and as many product owners as possible. DIY store owners are also very welcome, because we're going to talk about coding, we're going to talk about AI, of course, performance, and product management, and the future of WooCommerce. I think what I wanted to start with was a bunch of developers who we all know each other. Like if you give me a name, I'll probably say, oh yeah, I know them from Twitter or know them from Slack, but I actually never talk to them. And not necessarily I want to talk to them about WooCommerce. Could be about Australia, traveling to California, could be anything. But at least I want to have the chance to network. I want to have the chance to make new friends. I want to have the chance to, know where WooCommerce is going. And, the only way to do so is by talking to developers and managers and marketers, and that would be the very first target for this very first Checkout Summit. Then who knows, if it works very well, you can always have 2-3 different tracks and attract even merchants and and grow if I really want to. But for now the target is very much focused around developers, whether beginners or advanced, but still it's going to be about anyone who is able to develop a plugin or write a tutorial or understand a few lines of PHP or manage a website and sell online their own services and products. That would be the best target for this 2026 Checkout Summit.
Yeah, and I think like you were saying, it's a lot of times people say the hallway track is kind of the most important thing. And I mean, I'm sure most people, or maybe not most, but I think a lot of people in the WordPress space and the WooCommerce space are remote workers, or like I work for a remote company. And sometimes you just get in the mode of you're a work person and I'm only talking to you about work and we're just sending work back and forth. And I don't even know you. You're just text in a box that I'm typing to all the time. So like, I'm glad I work somewhere where we have a culture where we meet up in person on a regular basis. And then you just talk about, your life. You kind of know each other as people. You kind of maybe put work aside for a minute and just think like, hey, this is just, a community. We're all just people trying to do our best, and we all just, want to get to know each other and just have a good time too. And then out of that, a lot of times I feel like good ideas come up, good things that you maybe wouldn't have thought of, partnerships, or, you learn who you maybe don't want to work with, or you learn all sorts of different things about each other. Yeah, it's just such a valuable thing. And then I think you have the added benefit of it sounds like a really nice destination of where we're going, which is not always the case for WordPress conferences. Sometimes they're not That so maybe you could like I've never been to Italy, so maybe you can give me like a overview of kind of just the location, the vibe. What are we walking into?
Yeah, sounds good. By the way, 100% agree with what you said about, you know, a remote company,
Mm.
feeling the need of actually meeting in person, once a year, whenever it is. So I'm, treating this more like a retreat. We're in Sicily, which is a very touristy area in Italy. So my goal was I want people to, first of all, have a nice time. Second of all, go to a nice place, enjoy proper food if possible, and consider this as a vacation. And then inside this vibe, we're gonna, put 12 amazing speakers, put loads of networking. We're gonna put, you know, 6 or 7 sponsors and side events and drinks and happy hours and whatever. And still, you have 5 minutes and you're at the beach and you can have a proper walk if the weather is nice. I hope so. It should be, in the low 20s at that time of the year if we're lucky. It could be raining. I can't predict it, unfortunately, but it's a nice time just to put on a hoodie and go for a walk on the beach as well. There are possibly they will be opening the swimming pool for us, and it's gonna be kind of a nice location. It's like it's a venue that opens up just usually for the summer, but in the low season they have loads of conferences like this one. So the vibe is gonna be super relaxed. Everything's gonna be about food and going to the beach and talking to people and maybe do some games, which I'm not going to spoil at the moment. And then we're also going to have 2 full days of talks and speed networking, whatever we're going to come up with, and trying to get the best within the WooCommerce dev environment at the moment. Speakers coming from US, from Australia, from Central Europe, from Asia, and this is going to be amazing value. And because we're in Sicily, it's not that expensive either. So
Okay.
Sicily is probably one of the poorest, if you want, region in Italy. So it has everything, but also has a history of being invaded by everyone because it's in the middle of the sea. So the Arabs were there, the Spanish, the Greeks, and the Romans, and it's a mixed variety of different cultures, and it's interesting. At the same time, for some people, oh, it's not like beautiful Venice or it's not like amazing, like Florence, but it has a lot of interesting spots. So I also chose to put the conference on a Thursday and a Friday because I wanted people to stay longer if they wish to and rent a car and go and drive around because it's a nice spot. I live here and I might be biased, but I kind of like it. It's still like 50 years ago. It's not really well developed from a tourism point of view, and it's almost original as it used to be. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, that sounds nice. From what I understand, I think the weather is kind of comparable to California, right? Like it's a that similar kind of weather. So I'm excited about that because gone to enough like freezing cold conferences and like I'm spoiled with California weather, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
always excited
actually.
for anything Mediterranean that makes me happy.
Yes, indeed. So basically, the summer season in Italy starts around the 1st of June. So we're late April, but I guarantee you that there will be people on the beach like walking or fishing or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to also be near the ocean. So you've announced some of the speakers, and so maybe just like as a preview for what's coming, who are some of the speakers you're most excited about? Are there some names that you haven't shared that you're keeping secret that you can hint at or anything like that? And who are some of the people we're going to see on stage?
Yes. So my plan is to have 12 speakers, and I've announced 7 of them, and the last 5 should be announced in the next few days. And I'm really excited about all of them, to be honest, because I had to, really pick just 12 of them and not
Hmm.
50 like for, a European WordCamp or so. So it was really hard. And, I have loads of people already lined up for year two of the conference. Say, okay, you can make it this one. You definitely need to come to, 2027. But surely we've got Katie Keat from Bar 2. I'm super excited. I know her very well. We've been, we spoke at many events together as well. She's lovely and she's very knowledgeable. I've got Josh Colback from Rimer.
Nice.
And coming, flying from Australia and talking about his suite of, WooCommerce plugins and, especially, about business and how to manage all these different products. Patrick Rowland, who used to work at WooCommerce, now works for Merchant. So is basically gone to the other side.
Nice.
And he's a great speaker and has done loads online as well. So it's nice to also meet him in person. Nick McLaughlin from Skyverge, another amazing person I really value within the WooCommerce community.
Yeah.
Jessica Risch from the Netherlands. So we're talking about agencies. Remy Corson used to be a WooCommerce and now has just been hired by SEO Press. So we're going to have SEO talks as well, especially this time around. And then we've got also Carolina Viscocilova, which, would be a product developer and also freelancer. So basically we've got a nice mix so far, because I can't tell you the next 5 yet, but a super nice mix of developers and product owners. And, that's what I really wanted to, share during Checkout Summit.
Yeah.
This is what I really wanted to cover the very first Checkout Summit. So pretty happy about them. We haven't basically published yet the topics they're gonna be sharing about, because, and I knew this since the very beginning, WooCommerce in the last 6 months had changed so much that it was pointless to pick a topic and an outline 2 months ago. So we're going to start working on the topics right now. They already gave me some ideas, and of course, and I selected them because of the content, but also because of the target audience, because of the people, because of the quality of the speakers. And now we're going to start working on the actual talks. And I hope that these 12 talks will be amazing and people will go back home with some proper content.
Do you still have tickets available?
Yes. So I started with the early birds back in September 2025. It was too early, but I really wanted to shape the summit as well as selling the first few tickets. So I did that. The early birds sold out, thankfully. And now we've got the second batch of tickets are available at checkoutsummit.com. And then there will be the last and final batch of 50 tickets once these will sell out. And the price is basically increasing batch after batch. But overall, I'm pretty happy. I'm glad that I started early to organize all this, to promote all this, and to build in public. I'm kind of copying WooCommerce a little bit by being very transparent and honest about what I'm doing, what choices I'm making, and the fact that I'm building it alone, it doesn't really matter because loads of people are helping me online and you should do that, and why don't you do that, and this amazing thing you should be doing, and so on. So it's like working in a team, just myself and hundreds of people online who are super generous with their time. Like people, you should hop on a call and I'll give you some tips for sponsors, and loads of people super helpful, and I'm super glad about that. Yes. And who knows, maybe in year 2 I will grow the team and turn this into an actual business. But for now it's just myself trying to get 150 people out there in the wild in Sicily on the beach and basically have a nice conversation, and also meet WooCommerce in person, which is one of the reasons I also did that. And it'll be nice to put a face on some of you and also ask you, what's next and what we developers and product managers should focus next. And, that's $1 million questions, but we're there for this reason.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I will see you in a few months. And for anybody that's interested, it's just checkoutsummit.com, correct?
Correct.
All right. Thank you, Rodolfo.
Well, thank you, Brian. As usual, same as in-person conferences, it's nice to actually have these conversations because I spend, 99% of my time building and, writing and stuff. And then, with these conversations, actually, you get to focus on what's next. And okay, now I should take that note and adjust that thing. And it's always good and helpful. Thank you, Brian, for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Webmasters is hosted by me, Brian Coords. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to like and subscribe, leave us a review, or share this episode. For more, visit webmasters.fm. Until next time.